500 episodes, Driven Mofos. We are here. All right, Driven Mofos, you know the deal. It's 500 episodes. I'm pumped. Today is a special podcast episode. I brought in the Queen. She's sitting here scared because she hates being on the mic. She hates being out in public, but I dragged her along. She was kicking and screaming. Yeah. I put a dog collar on her, one of those like electric shock ones, and shocked her until she came in here. And then I gave her a biscuit or a treat. I'm not going to eat tonight. But anyway, so I thought what we would do today is, first of all, I want to thank each and every one of you, because when I started this 2 years ago, the reason why I started was that so many people heard my original podcast. My original podcast, I think I started in 2015 or 2016, and we went number one on iTunes. So we went over some of the biggest podcasts on the planet. We were number one, I think, in the area of education and self-help. We did an amazing job, but I got sick of interviewing the wrong people. I just started interviewing people for the sake of interviewing to try to keep our stats up. And I just got frustrated and I just went, you know what, fuck this. And I gave up one day. I just stopped, which probably wasn't a good thing, because when I look at people like Lewis Howes and Joe Rogan and people like that, they've done an amazing job with their podcasts. And the community kept saying, I drive around all day. I would love to listen to a podcast. And I thought, you know what? I don't really want to do another podcast again. It's just a waste of time. It's frustrating. And Jess said to me one day, why don't you do a podcast, but why don't you just record your own thoughts every day? Just whatever you've learned, whatever you're thinking about, whatever you feel like sharing, just who cares? Just put it out there. We started doing it and the feedback from all of you was phenomenal. So I kept doing it. And then I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go for a year straight, because one of the things that I needed to learn was consistency. You know, as a crazy cat ranger that I am, I always go balls to the wall. And when things don't work, I normally just change course really, really quickly. So I thought this is a great way of me doing something where consistency is going to be key. So we decided to do 7 days a week. Then I realized that was out of control. And even now I speak to some of the top podcasters on the planet and I tell them that I do 7 days and they go, you're a freak. But I am a freak. But anyway, I decided to do 7 days and then it was just too much. And so I decided to drop to 5 days a week. And that was because statistically anyway, the weekends, the numbers drop off massively. So we have had almost 100,000 downloads now of the podcast. It is awesome. And I appreciate each and every one of you, because I get so many of you reach out on my Instagram, tell me that you love listening to the podcast. And then sometimes I just get to a point where I'm like, you know what, I got too much shit on. I'm just going to miss a day. No one will even notice. And then you know what happens? I start getting messages from all of you out there going, hey man, where's the podcast? And I'm like, shit, people do really care about this thing and people do really listen to it. And I find it amazing that it inspires all of you to do better, to be better, and to get the best out of yourself, because that's really what life's about. If you want to live a great life, you have to become great. If you want to live a great life, you have to have a great mindset. If you want to achieve in any area of life, you have to know the value that you have within yourself, because if not, you won't see the value outside of yourself, and you can have as much shit as you want in your external life and you'll still feel like you have no value. So my goal for this podcast was to help people to change their mindset and to consistently develop themselves, which I call personal development, because personal development was the thing that changed my life forever. At 21, when I was lying on my bed, awake at nighttime at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was having night sweats. I'd just broken up from a girlfriend at the time. I'm living back at home with mum and dad, fucking hating life, not knowing what I wanted to do, completely lost. And this program or this ad came on about changing your life. And so I hopped out of bed and I thought, you know what, I've got nothing to lose. I had $230 in my bank account and the product was $229. And I had to borrow petrol to get to work the next day, or money for petrol, because I spent every last cent I had on that personal development product, hoping that it would change my life. And looking back now, I've made millions. I've been able to hang out with the best people in the world. I have an amazing community of all of you. You know, I have an amazing life. A life that I probably couldn't have dreamt of when I was younger. And now I just dream of an even bigger life, because I know that whatever has been possible, more is possible in the future, hence why I do this stuff. But anyway, let's give it up for the Queen. We'll do a fake little clap here. Yay. Jess is here. So Jess has some questions for me. We thought we'd do a bit of a Q&A. Let's rip this up. I'll try and be as quick and as concise as possible. And hopefully she doesn't give me too much shit. Hopefully she doesn't throw me under the bus and absolutely tarnish my brand and reputation. So here we go. All right, Jess, what have you got?
Well, okay. Hello, everybody. Well, congrats first on 500 episodes. That's a lot. It's a lot of talking, but I don't think that's really a problem for you, Michael. No. So, well, why don't we reflect on the last 500 episodes? Like, That's a lot. That's over a year and a half. Like, what have you learned by doing those 500 episodes?
Great question. What I have learned is that the power of sharing your knowledge. I think before the 500 episodes, I really questioned my own value in the world. I used to question myself whether I was good enough, whether I was smart enough, whether I was doing the right thing, whether there were things that I should be doing that weren't teaching, coaching, or learning. I've always been driven by building business. I love business. I love, working hard. I love putting in effort. I love creating wealth as well, not for just for myself, but for everybody around me, which includes the community as well. I hope people have great health and a great lifestyle. And so I just wanted to be a central hub where people could build a life that they're proud of. But more importantly than a life that they're proud of, a person that they look in the mirror and see the person that they're proud of. And when I first started this podcast, I think I used to doubt that because there's a lot of challenges and a lot of adversities that you go through, as you're aware of, Jess, because you've been with me long enough now to see the consistent shit that we go through in order to build the business and in order to build a community. And in order to do things, there's always adversities. There's always challenges. When you're dealing with more people, they have different perspectives, different philosophies, different ideas. And so every time I put something out on social media, there's always someone who's sitting there going, well, I don't agree with that. And then they get all antsy and fancy and, they might not understand my intention or they might misinterpret my words. Or sometimes I just don't give a fuck anyway. And I just say what I want to say because I know it'll piss people off and it revs everyone up. When I do that, I do it because I really believe that every human being is born with greatness within them. And going back, when you look at, it's on the wall of Delphi, it says, know thyself, be thyself. And you can't be yourself if you don't know yourself. And so part of what I do is help people know themselves. And I think over this podcast, I've come to know myself more. And that is what I believe in, what I like. I know that so many of you I've met because of the podcast. We've got some great clients, some of them who have been making hundreds of millions of dollars, who reach out to me and go, man, I just came across your podcast. Fucking love this. We need to have a coffee. And then the next second they become clients. And this is so inspiring as well. Like I'm inspired by people who are growth driven. Having a Ferrari doesn't inspire me. If you've got a Ferrari and you're a douchebag and you're not growth driven, I could not give a fuck. But when you're somebody who's worked hard, who's pushed yourself, who overcomes adversities consistently, I think it reminds everyone else around you of your own greatness and your own possibilities. And so that's why, the community is the driven mofos. I like being around driven people. If you've got $100 million, well, make it 150, maybe 200, because if you've already got that behind you, the winds are in your sail. Keep letting it push you in a direction. But it's not just about money. It's, what about all those people that have reached out to me and said, I came across your podcast and you gave me the self-belief and the self-worth to keep pushing hard. And people have hit rock bottom. People who have gone through divorce, who have lost everything. Some people have started from the bottom by making poor choices in life with drugs and alcohol and addiction, and they lost everything. They've been living on the street and they come across a podcast and they start listening and they reach out and they become part of the community. And within 3 to 4 months, now they're in Dominate, which is a cheaper, lower price point product. But they're there every week. They're learning, they're watching, they're growing. And then I get a message, hey man, I just bought a new car. And you know what? It might be a couple of $1,000 car. It's not about the price of the car. It's just the fact that 6 months prior to that, they couldn't do shit. It really inspires me to see people who are pushing the limits, who are pushing the boundaries, who are doing better each and every day. It's really about the journey. Like I love seeing people overcoming their own adversity. So that's the cool shit. I love when people reach out to me and say, I'm going through relationship challenges and we start chatting and they jump into a program like Dominate and then, their relationship improves because they find out more about themselves and the difference of communication styles between men and women and all of those types of things. That's what really inspires me. And so I think over in the last 500 episodes, I've learned that being myself is okay, that believing in myself is okay. I've always sort of pushed hard, but it's because I thought that if I push hard and I achieve lots of things, I would then be able to validate myself as an individual. What I realize is that every adversity that I've overcome is reason to validate myself, and that's it. I don't need more clients. I don't need more money. I don't need more shit externally. What I need to do is to be more of myself and to push myself to find my own limits. And I think that's what I've realized over the last 500 episodes is, first of all, know thyself, be thyself, and it's okay to be me. I probably swear too much compared to most people. I say inappropriate shit. I push people too hard sometimes. But I believe in most people more than they believe in themselves. And I think I had to learn to start believing myself as much as other people believe in me as well. Like I know you've always believed in me, and a lot of the clientele that we've had over the years believe in what I do. But sometimes I struggle to see that, especially when you get negative feedback or, you get that one fucking shitty customer that no matter what you do, they just give you shit. Or, the people on social media who are criticizing all the time and stuff like that. You can start to doubt yourself and those things creep in. But I think over the last 500 episodes, it's really been about just solidifying that I am on the right path and there is an amazing community of people who believe in what I do, just like I believe in them, and I believe that they are greater, and I believe that they can push themselves to greater limits. And it's my responsibility to help them to do that. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, that's great. So what about like when you're talking about like reflecting on that stuff and what you've learned, obviously that's like an awesome skill that anyone can like implement into their life. So like what would you recommend people do in order to like reflect on, and like why is it so important to do that?
It's a good question because I never used to do that. I've worked with tens of thousands of driven people now. We don't really get the bummed out, down and lazy, everything's too hard, victim mentality type of people because I destroy them. And as they should be. I think there is a time and a place for people to have sorrow and for people to complain about their past circumstances. But after that, we got to accept it and get the fuck on with it. And I think way too many people in this day and age get rewarded due to their victim card. And the counter opposing to that is that driven people, they tend to live in the future quite heavily. So they go, I want this goal. I want to have a better body. I want to have a better relationship. I want more money. I want a better lifestyle. I want to build a bigger business, whatever it is, right? And they will push themselves to their absolute limits, to their breaking point. Driven people tend to always look into the future. But then when you're looking into the future, it can throw you into this negative state of mind because you feel like you're never there yet. You can feel like you've never achieved anything. You're never good enough because there's always this greater level. The more confidence you build, the more courage you build, the more you build yourself, the bigger the visions become, the bigger the goals become, the bigger everything becomes in life because the purpose of life is to keep growing. It's to expand. And so part of that, I believe, is to expand your own belief in yourself, but also to improve your own standards. And so if that means buying a bigger house, you'll buy a bigger house and you go, shit, I don't have a lot of money now. And now my security's gone. Fuck, I need to work harder. So then you push yourself harder. Then you might get ahead financially and you go, you know what? Now I want to go on a holiday with the family because I've been working hard. And then you look in the bank account and you go, there's not enough money in there. So then you push harder. But then now you've been pushing hard to work and go on holidays. Now your body, maybe put on a bit of weight. So then it becomes, I need a better body. So then you're pushing yourself hard at the gym. I think driven people are always looking for their gaps. They always see what they're not. Self-reflection is the ability to stop and to go back and go, look how far I've actually come. And so what I believe is that driven people are always looking forward into the future and very rarely do they stop to look back. I think that it's important to stop and actually look back at how far you've come because if you don't look how far you've come, you never appreciate the journey that you've been on. And all you see ahead is this big long road that never ends to a place that most people don't even know where they're going. Unless you've been to Thrive Time and have a success map, you probably don't even know where you're going. What if that path just leads to infinity and you're always going to be working hard thinking that you're never there yet and that you're never good enough? But maybe that's the purpose. Maybe the purpose is that it keeps pushing you to keep growing. It's just you can't appreciate your own growth. So the reflection is part of that stopping, looking back, look how far I've come. Something I'm running Triumph this week, which is my leadership event. One of the things I get people to do is to go back every decade of their life and write down at least 100 achievements that they've had. For me, that was one of the greatest things that I've ever done because I realized that I wasn't a piece of shit and that I've achieved so fucking much. And if I've achieved so much in the last 40 years, if everything compounds, every decade should be compounding year after year after year of growth. Like the limits that I could achieve is infinite. And I think a lot of people realize that when they go back and they stop and they self-reflect and see how far they've come. So that's why I self-reflect. I also think if you can't stop and self-reflect, you lack awareness. There are plenty of people out there who they just get up, they go to work, they complain about how shit the job is, they go out on the weekend, they get pissed, they drink, they eat, they blow all their cash, and then they complain again. That lack of self-reflection keeps people stuck in feedback loops or these cycles of negativity or problems and shit. Unless you can stop and go, here's a problem, here's a solution, let's fucking work towards that solution, then you tend to just get stuck in vicious cycles. And I think most people in life are stuck in vicious cycles, hence why their life very rarely improves after the age of about 30.
I think that's a good point that you were just talking about then, is about people getting stuck in vicious cycles. And then like literally you can see people over the space of this podcast, which is like a year and a half, like you can see people that don't change at all in like a year and a half, or they just keep going back to the same point that they've always been at. Like what stops those people? Like why do they just keep staying the same? And then that is someone out there and you're listening to this and you're like, oh shit, that's me. Like, what would you recommend they do to like start moving out of that cycle of just staying in their kind of comfort zone or doing the same thing all the time?
That's a really good question. In there, you said in the year and a half, you said something about the year and a half of the podcast and you're like, if someone's been stuck in a vicious cycle and so on. I would hope that, that not many people that I know who listen to this podcast consistently have been stuck in that vicious cycle, because it starts, the more I teach and the more I question things, the more I show examples of where people have been stuck in stupid behaviors or beneficial behaviors. I think it opens people up to think differently. As you know, Jess, I'm not a person who is grounded in my beliefs. I don't have a belief system that is rigid. What I believe is that we're adapting and changing all the time. And so I question everything. I question my own beliefs. I question, Jess is nodding her head. I can be a really frustrating person to be around, because someone will say to me, well, life is a struggle. That's just the way that it is. And I go, well, what makes you believe that? And they go, well, it's just how it is. And I go, is that how it is for everybody? Or maybe it's just you? And they go, oh, fuck, maybe it is just me. And I go, well, maybe there have been people in worse situations than you who have achieved more than you and who are enjoying life more than you. So maybe the question should be, are my beliefs serving me? Because I don't believe that they are. And what I'll do is I'll shit inside their brain and just let that fucking fester, and they'll think about it, and they hopefully will change the way that they think. Because our brain is, there's something called neuroplasticity, which means our brain changes and it evolves over time. And so what I believe is that if we don't like the person that we are, we can change into a person that we want to be, and we can do that. Whereas a lot of people in our society believe that they are very stuck in this predictable pattern because their brain is rigid and that's just the way things are. But that's why they suffer. Because if you keep walking over nails and then end up with nails in your feet, it fucking hurts. And it hurts because they keep just walking the same path with nails on it. If you don't like that, then just walk a different path. And you can do that by changing the way you think about things. Hence, once again, why personal development and changing your mindset is the greatest investment an individual will make. People go out and they'll blow, 600K on a house, and they think that that's their greatest investment because they've been convinced by a bunch of douchebags who sit in Parliament House and do taxation and shit like that, that that's a great idea. But for most of the economy, it fucking traps them for the next 30 years or 40 years waiting for retirement, because they have to pay off that debt now to the bank and they have no other value. They have no other investments. Their only value is themselves, and themselves isn't working that fucking good. It's a shitty investment, right? Because they never really invest in themselves. That's why it blows my mind when someone says that my courses are expensive. My courses aren't expensive. They are cheap. They are cheap relative to what you get back over time. Yet people go out and blow 600 grand in a house and work a job that they're never really going to get a pay rise in, apart from less than inflation, because they keep thinking that their greatest investment is their house. And it's not. The greatest investment is your own mindset and yourself, because the more that you can believe in yourself, the more you educate yourself, the more you learn about communication leadership, the more courage you have, the more valuable you become as a person, the more money you'll make, the more money you make, the greater the lifestyle will be, and so on. And it grows and expands over time. So coming back to the question, the framework that I use, which is the Mojo framework, is clarity times by standards plus environment equals success or fulfillment or results. So the first thing is you need clarity. My question is, when someone comes to me and they go, well, I'm stuck in these patterns, I don't know what I'm going to do, I don't know whether I can change, but yada, yada, yada. My first thing is why? What do you really want, and why is that important to you? Because if you know what you want and you know why it's important to you, then you can grow out of it. If you don't know what you want, you're just going to stay stuck in what you know. Humans need safety to grow and to expand. So if you have someone who is unsafe in their environment, and then they're unsafe in their own psychology because they're fear-driven, they worry, they're concerned, they're stressed all the time, they're frustrated, and they're caught in these negative emotions or negative feelings or these negative thought patterns, now what happens is they're in survival mode. When you're drowning, if I come along and I just roll up in my rowboat and you're fucking drowning and I go, hey man, think about your mission. You're like, dude, save me, I'm drowning. And I'm like, nah, man, just think about a mission. Think about your vision. You'll be sweet. Like, think about your values. You're not going to do that because you're like gasping for air. You're just trying to grab onto anything. And so normally people who are stuck will grab onto anything. These are the people who go for get rich quick scams. These are the people who want to start a business so that life is easy. And they haven't really thought about it. These are the people who do their, 5-week gym programs or whatever, or, they're dieting all the time because they're always looking for this quick fix. But that's because when you're drowning, you grab hold of something in order to save yourself. When you properly sit down and you do what I teach at Thrive Time, which is create your success map, you create certainty in your future. You go, I am certain that I'm going to get here. I am certain that I'm going to grow. I am certain that I'm going to develop myself because I know that I'm born for something greater. I can see it in my head, and it gives you that certainty so you feel safe moving forward. Most people don't feel safe making tough decisions because they just don't have clarity on what the future looks like. If you have a future that is blank and all you can see is your past, and your past is full of stress and fear and worry and anxiety and failure and people judging you and criticism and all that, well, what do you think the future is going to be like if you've just got a blank piece of paper there? the only thing you're going to do is replicate it because that's what your life shows. So I think really having that clarity really helps you to create high standards. Then when you have high standards, then you start creating an environment of high standards. So the people that you hang around have high standards. The community you associate with have high standards. And you don't put up with shit from low standard motherfuckers. And that's like our community, right? When someone comes in, if they bitch and moan and complain all the time, I'm like, hey, I'm not your guy. Go somewhere else. Because our community just don't accept that. I can have people who've hit rock bottom and who have lost everything. And they'll come in and they're like, man, I want to be better. We work with those people. I love working with those people. I have people who are at the top of their game and they go, I want to be better. I love working with those people. But we just don't work with those people with their victim cards who everything's too tough and life gave me a shitty hand and nothing ever works out. I've had people, as you know, Jess, in the community who they'll join one of my programs. They'll make hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then 6 months later, they're drowning again because they haven't done the work. They stopped doing the work that I taught them. And then they start drowning and then they turn around and blame us and they go, well, you don't care about me. You don't give me anything. And I'm like, listen here, you piece of shit. I've literally put $200,000 in your bank account and you've invested $20,000 in my programs. You've made 200 grand in the last month off of what I've taught you. You told me that. And now you're telling me that you haven't got enough yet. These types of people are toxic. They are sick and nothing that they ever do is good enough because they don't see their own greatness inside of themselves. So they don't see things that other people do that are great for them. They're just not appreciative. And remember, appreciation means go up in value. Depreciate means go down in value. So when you have a person who depreciates himself all the time, who is so negative and so toxic inside their own mind, no matter what anyone does for them, they're always going to criticize and judge and not enjoy it. Like, I mean, there's a lot of people who are listening to this who have had friends who are like that, who have family who are like that, and have also been in intimate relationships that are like that. That shit never works. What it does is it repulses good people and keeps shit people in your life. That's all I have to say anyway. All right, off you go. Jess has got a personal training session and she said, will this be quick? And I said, yeah, knowing that it wouldn't.
Yeah, I assumed. 15 years of you talking, I know that by now what you're like. But I wanted to talk about some things that I notice in you that you are really great at and the things that I admire in you. Like, obviously, we're quite different people. Then I thought there also would be things that I've noticed that would really help people in the community as well. And one of those things is like you are just like a bull at a gate when it comes to committing. Like you just go, this is what I want. I'm going after it and I'm going to do what it takes to get that result. Like, how did you like get like that? And like, what's your philosophy around like that commitment and going for things that you want?
I was not like that when I was younger. When I was younger, I just did what everybody else wanted me to do. And I was who everyone else wanted me to be. And I tried that up until the age of 15. And I didn't fit in at school. I was always in trouble. I was in trouble at home. And then when I got expelled from school at 15, I just wanted to end my life. And I wanted to end my life because I felt like I didn't have a place. I felt like I wasn't accepted. I felt like I wasn't good enough. And that was the truth. I wasn't good enough because I never really committed to anything. I didn't know what I wanted. And I think in that moment, I realized that nothing that I ever do is going to be good enough for everybody. And so I just had to do what was right by me. And so I started just pushing myself a little bit more, like committing to things that I wanted, even at the expense of other people's opinions. And that was going back to school. So I did that. I went back to school, finished off grade 12. And then when I became a diesel mechanic, I thought that I was doing the right thing. You know, I thought that if I got an apprenticeship and I was able to go up into the mines and work as a mechanic, I could make a lot of money, or a diesel fitter, whatever you want to call them. But what I saw was a whole bunch of people who had lost their own souls just to make money. And I didn't want to do that because it made me go back to a dark place. Also, having my best friend's 3-year-old niece in a car accident, there was probably something that sort of tortured me a little bit there. And I thought about this a lot. I think about it a lot, but I don't know if it's there or if it's not there, if I'm just like unaware of it. But I think what I realized is that life can just be taken away in a second. And I also know that part of Georgia, who was my best friend's 3-year-old niece who was killed in that car accident, when she died, that was the day I actually woke up and started living. So until you witness a child's coffin going into the ground, for most people, or even someone close to them passing away, you don't realize how short life is and how it can just be taken away and how tragic it can be. And what I realized was that if I just sit on the fence all my life and do what everybody else is doing, I'm just going to get to where everybody else is going, and that's nowhere. And so I think part of me feels like I'm living two lives. I'm living for me, but I'm also living for her, because if it wasn't for her, maybe I would just end up fucking nowhere. So it was a massive wake-up call. And then after that, I just like when I quit my diesel mechanic apprenticeship, my mum burst into tears and said, what are you doing with your life? But I knew that if I didn't stick to what I was going to do, I would hate my life and I would blame people around me. And I wanted to go and do what I wanted to do. Now, my mum burst into tears and got all upset. Now, you know my mum, you know what she's like. She's very driven. She's very determined. If she has an opinion, she'll fucking tell you. And if you don't like her opinion, she'll fucking tell you again. My mum's a tough woman and she's softened up over the years now, but she's very much like me as well. Like she doesn't take shit from people. And if she has to, I think she'd probably get in a punch on with most people if she had to, right? She doesn't take shit. My mum's very soft, actually. She's soft and feminine, but she has a badass to her. That's what I love about her. She's very nurturing and caring, but she's a badass. Growing up, that was quite tough and quite difficult because she put a lot of pressure on me. But I think I started realizing after I made the first big decision to quit my apprenticeship and my mum burst into tears, and then as I worked as a personal trainer, I found the thing that I love to do, which was helping people. And I got really good at it. Then what I found was that my mum was proud of me and she started telling everyone else how great I was doing. And she became one of my biggest fans. But then when I quit from that industry, she burst into tears again and got all upset and said, what are you going to do with your life? And if you just stick at personal training, like you're making all this money, you're doing so well. But I knew that the physical fitness part wasn't the thing that I just enjoyed. I still love training and I still love helping people. Hence why now I actually have one of the country's top CrossFit athletes who works with me and he does all of my programming and everything like that. He actually creates programs for the community when you join my mid-ticket coaching program. So that's the $750 per quarter. So it's $750 per quarter, up to about $3,000, I think, per year. But he does the gym programming with that. And so there's an app, and because I know the importance of looking after your health, but the thing that I really love to do is I love getting inside people's heads because I realize that everybody knows what to do. They just don't do it. And it's what happens in between their ears. And as you know, Jess, more than anything, how many people do you know who put in the amount of work on their own mindset as what I have? Like how often do you see me with a pen and paper sitting either in front of the TV or sitting in my office or having days where I just sit here reading books and trying to break through my own adversities inside my own head? Because I'm 100% sure that life is a direct reflection of what goes on inside our own mind. If I'm scared, the world gives me more shit or the universe gives me more shit to be scared of. If I have doubt, the world or universe or God or Mother Nature or whatever you want to call it gives me more things to doubt. So if I can keep working on my beliefs and if I can keep working on creating a world inside my own mind, which is the world that I want to live in, then all of a sudden things start to work out. Like shit just starts happening. You've seen this. How many times have you seen this? I have a shit week. I'm stressed out. I'm fucking frustrated. I'm tired. I'm burnt out. I'm overworked. Cash flows dog shit. And then all of a sudden we can't get sales and I'm like hitting the phones. I'm in the DMs. Nothing's happening. No sales. I might get like someone buys Dominate for $47. And then the next week I have the weekend off. I work on myself. And then Monday comes to Friday and we might pull like 60 to 100 grand in sales. And I'm like, where the fuck did they all come from? Like, what happened? I cannot logically put a thing on it. But if you talk to anyone who knows about their mindset, they will know that when you see abundance in the external world and you have abundance within yourself, for some weird reason, things just seem to work and you get what you want. Now, it's not always financial. It just, things start to work better. And I don't know why that is. I have theories of it. I've studied, quantum theory right through to chemistry, biology. I have theories, but there's no scientific data that I've come across that can actually explain that in a scientific way of how that works. So yeah, I just believe that if I work on myself, the more I work on myself, the more self-belief I have, the more I back myself. And you know this, like when I first started, I used to sit on Jess's floor in a house. She had this little house with her sister. And I would sit on the floor with Jess. She would sit in her bed on the computer and I would wedge in between her bed and this little cabinet with her clothes in it, right? Remember? Yeah. I would just sit on the ground with my computer and I would work and Jess would work on the bed and we built this business. And when I think about how far we've come, it is absolutely phenomenal. But we have had the shit kicked out of us consistently. And all I knew is that if I just keep redirecting my mindset, like when I get scared, I focus on the vision of the future. When I'm afraid, I focus on the mission. When things are going wrong, I look for the balance in everything. So when I'm getting criticized, I figure out what are the benefits and what I learn from it and what gifts are they giving me through the criticism, because sometimes criticism massively helps. So I look at that and I balance out my mindset again. So I see things for what they are, not positive or not negative. And these are the tools that I teach at my events, right? Like I teach what I know. I don't teach shit just because it's good theory. There's a lot of people out there who go, oh, this is the way things work. But they haven't done anything. They've never achieved anything. They've never put in the work on themselves. And I don't do shit like tell people to meditate, because a lot of the time meditation is just another drug that people use in order to escape. There is a time and a place for meditation. It's a great tool, but a hammer is also a great tool. You wouldn't use it to fix a fucking window though. So you have to use the right tool at the right time. And that's what I've been highly competent and highly skilled at, which has allowed me to have the self-belief to just execute on things. In fact, my McLaren, remember when I walked in and I said, I'm buying a McLaren, and Jess looked at me and she said, no, you're fucking not. And I said, I've already spoken to the accountant. And she said, I don't give a shit. You're not buying the McLaren. And I was like, it's too late. I've already bought it. And she's like, I think you cut sick for about 3 or 4 days. And I think you didn't really talk to me properly for about 2 weeks. You were pissed. But it all worked out, right? Because I believed in it. And yes, it was tough because I stretched myself, but I also knew the standard that I wanted to live by. And my car wasn't about impressing people. It was about raising myself to a higher standard and pushing myself. And the US was exactly the same. I said to Jess, we're going to the US in September. I don't care. Like, I'm going. I don't give a shit what anyone says. This is what I'm doing. And I made that decision. And then Jess had a whole bunch of questions and said, well, what about this? What about that? And I sat there with her. We worked through them. We got clear, which made her feel safe. And then I executed. And that's what most men should do in a relationship. You say what you want to do, but then you listen to the questions and the concerns of your partner, and then you help them to feel safe by answering the questions, not getting pissed off with them.
I think you kind of answered my next question anyway in that part anyway, because I was going to say to you that one, that thing that you said about like having that energy over effort, like all the time, like going back and focusing on your mindset, going on your physical energy, what you're focusing on, like that's what you do really often is just like, you don't dwell on emotions. You just kind of get into it and like figure it out like where you want to go. That was the question I was going with, which was about like, how do you not dwell on emotions? Like you have some people that sit in the same emotion for like a whole week. How do you approach it? What do you do to just move on and learn from it?
I think the real disappointing thing with the psychology, the personal development, the personal growth industry, and especially all of this stuff that's out in the world at the moment around mental health, is that most people who advocate this haven't really studied it or done their research. If you study emotions, there is no clear scientific determination of what an emotion is. We know that we feel it. We know that these feelings make us feel certain different ways. So I went and I studied a lot of data and a lot of research. But when I really looked at the causal chain, which is the chain of sequencing of events that have to happen in order to do things in our own life, you essentially have a perception in your own mind. That perception then triggers these beliefs, these stories and meanings from our past. That then changes the chemistry within our body through neuropeptides or peptides, hormones, our neurochemistry. And then from there, it changes the way we feel because of the way that our cells operate differently. And so that change there is essentially a chemical change, but it's all based on a perception. Those emotions then drive behavior. So when I started learning this stuff, I went, holy shit, this is stuff that people don't talk about. Really, all emotions is a warning sign on a dashboard. So I believe that even good emotions like happy emotions or joyful emotions, there are over-exaggerated feelings and there are under-exaggerated feelings. So when we're depressed, the word depressed means below average or down. When we're elated or excited, we're up. So when we're anxious, we have high amounts of energy. It's like this over-amplification of some sort of excitement or fear or adrenaline response. But then when we're depressed, we're down, and then we start feeling sad and it slows us down. So one speeds us up, one slows us down. One makes us excited, or there is excitation of cells, and then there's inhibition of cells. Those there give us feelings. When I realized that feelings are just a dashboard warning sign. So I try not to get too excited, but I try not to get too depressed. I try not to get too anxious, but I try not to get too stressed. I try to keep myself in sort of this mid-range, and this is what I teach at my Thrive Time event, and especially with the mental and emotional balancing tool, which is one of the world's most advanced tools to balance your own mindset, which then helps you to balance your own emotional states. The reason why I do that is because they are a false driver in life. So you can be driven by your mission, your vision, goals, your purpose, and you can be driven by the fulfillment of the attainment or the movement towards those goals. Fulfillment is not excitement. Fulfillment is a state of presence. It's a state of calmness. It's a state of peace. That's what the mystics spoke about for thousands of years. But if you give highly intelligent information that is life-changing to someone who, like, let's say you give an amazing book on scientific data to a child, the child can only interpret it through what it knows. That's why McDonald's have a Happy Meal. It's called a Happy Meal because happy is one of the first things that a child hears when it's excited or elated. Now, coming back to that, when we're elated and excited and happy and things like that, we then can start to be governed by our emotions instead of being governed by our mission, our purpose, and our values. So a lot of people give up fulfillment, which is a balanced state, which then gives them mental and emotional peace. They have love. Love is a balanced state. Like, I love you, obviously, but you're my best friend and my enemy, right? True? Like, if anyone's going to give me shit, it's going to be you, right? I come home one day and I'm like, yeah, I've cranked it this week. And you're like, hang on, motherfucker, you didn't unpack the dishwasher. And I'm like, why you got to bring me down? But it's because your job is to keep me balanced as a person. Your job as my intimate partner is to make me authentic in life. And so when I think that I'm better than what I am, you kick me down. But when I think that I'm worse than what I am, you lift me up. And that's part of our role in these great relationships around us, is that we want people to bring out our authenticity, not, kick us to the ground when we're down, and not over exaggerate or keep pushing us up when we're up, because what goes up has to crash again. So I just learned not to get addicted to my emotions. If I get emotional, I need to then go and balance shit out, or I need to work through things more effectively to then bring my mindset back to a balanced state so that I can stay on the path with my mission, my vision, my values, and live a life where I feel abundant. Like even doing this podcast, I'm not excited about it. It's just what I do because it's what I love. And what I love is teaching, which is part of my values. And it's part of a mission of being able to build businesses that help people perform better in life and business. So by having that clarity, I can now just execute and get stuff done. And like, how many times have we been so fucking tired, but we kept working because we had goals, we had a mission, we had a vision. If you get consumed by the feeling of being tired, or the feeling of being sad, or the feeling of being depressed, all that happens is your life becomes this cloud of emotions. And now you become emotionally driven with the peaks and troughs that emotions bring, instead of just being driven by a more balanced, fulfilling lifestyle where, you know that you're going to have adversities, but you just work through them. You have problems and you just work through them, because that's what life's about. It's about overcoming adversities, because more than anything, it builds your character.
I don't know if I have any more questions. I guess the last thing, you can add stuff to this, which you probably will. But I guess it's more of an appreciation after 500 episodes. Like, I get to be here and maybe speaking on behalf of everyone else. But like, I guess appreciating you as a coach. I mean, you do this podcast and it essentially costs you money, like costs you time, but we don't charge for it. It's just like value add to the community because you want to see people win. But like, I honestly believe like you are the like best coach in the world. Like, you have this incredible ability to see like the potential in people, and also like see where they want to go and extract it from them, and see like what's holding them back. And like, you will push them to achieve that because you can see that thing in them. And that's not always comfortable for people. And there's some people that push back from it, but that's what a coach is supposed to do. And I think that's what makes you an awesome coach. Whereas a coach isn't supposed to be just someone that like just hears you, and it's not therapy where you can just sit there and talk about your problems and feel good about yourself after you leave because you've dumped a heap of shit off your chest. Like, a coach is there to push you, and that is what you do. And through your programs, you push people into that new, like into discomfort, because people need to create that next new norm for themselves. Like, you're essentially just always stepping up all the time, and you do that incredibly well. And I think when people embrace that, like, they really get amazing results from you. And when they don't, I think they eventually come back anyway and realize that, oh, fuck, like, he was right. Like, he was just seeing the best in me and pushing me. And I think if you can embrace that as a person and embrace like your bluntness, which is sometimes hard, but yeah, it's awesome. So do you have anything to add on being a coach?
You almost made me well up a little bit there. I did a little bit, because I mean, sometimes as well, being in a relationship, I don't sometimes hear that appreciation from you as well into the things that I'm highly competent at. And you've seen me at events where you've seen me stay back and work with people until 3 a.m. in the morning to get breakthroughs. Or, you've been with me when I've had calls where someone calls up in the community and they're like, my friend's going to commit suicide. What do I do? And I say, fucking call the helpline or call the cops or whatever. And they go, nope, they won't talk to anyone else, but they'll talk to someone like you because you're blunt. You'll just say shit as it is. You're not going to fuck around. And that's what they need. And that's what they like. And so I've literally got up when we've been having dinner at like 8 o'clock at night on a Sunday night after I've been working, and then hop on the phone at like 8:30 at night and talk to someone until 11 o'clock to help them. So, it's valuable for me to hear that from you as well. And I appreciate everything, because you've been on this journey with me where it's fucking tough. Like, when we started, we had nothing, and we went through a stage where we could hardly even afford food. I remember not being able to pay rent and shit like that. For a while there, I lived off of savings from you and a promise that I would pay you back one day. I don't know if I ever have, but life is tough and it gives you these adversities for you to discover your own character and for you to discover yourself and how strong you are. And I think both of us have discovered our strength by running this company and also the community that we have. But I do agree with you that I think that the coaching industry and the mental health industry a lot is full of insecure people who are trying to find the easy path. I don't think that there is an easy path. I think, a lot of the time people mistake what a great life looks like. So I'll give you an example where if someone comes along, they say, I want to be happy, right? And they've had a shitty day. If you've had a bad day, you want to feel good about yourself, just go and get a 6-pack of beer and smash them, right? Go smoke some meth. True story, right? Like that's why people use drugs. Go and do lines of coke. Go and smash 2 large pizzas and a garlic bread and then scull it down with a 2-liter Coke. Now, I'm sure that most people who are listening to this have at least done one of those things. Or maybe you've even just gone out and grabbed your credit card out and just blown a bunch of money that you don't have or bought something brand new that you can't afford. All of those things, these are things that if you go back and you read Christianity or you go back and you read the ancient Greeks, they spoke about the 8 evil thoughts or the 7 deadly sins. These are part of this idea of the 7 deadly sins and the 8 evil thoughts. That if we chase our emotions and we chase feeling good, that's not the key to a great life. The key to a great life is being purposeful. It's to discover yourself and your own inner greatness and who you are. And that normally comes through adversity. There's nothing better than going, I can't be fucked going to the gym today, and you get in the car and you drive to the gym and you're hating the whole time that you're driving there, and you walk in, you're still thinking, you know what, I just want to get out of here. And then you start lifting weights and then you get into a bit of a rhythm. And at the end you walk out and you're like, fuck yeah, I feel so good because I overcame my own bullshit to be here. And the same thing happens financially. Like people will expand their lifestyle, which then throws them into this debt or into financial adversity. But if you can keep going and keep pushing and learn what you need to learn and gather that information, you start to build your own self-belief financially. And then now all of a sudden you start believing in yourself and that you can make more money because this pattern happens over and over and over again. It's commitment, adversity and problems, pain, stress, pressure, and then you overcome it. But when you overcome it, you learn everything that you need about yourself to go to that next level, and then you repeat the cycle again. And so I think the coaching industry is so full of people that want people to like them. They will tell people what they want to hear. They will tell people what makes them seem nice. And people would rather hire a nice coach and someone that they get along with and someone that they like and someone that they admire instead of hiring the person that's going to make them the best version of themselves. And you've seen this before. How many times has someone told me that they've wanted to grow, they've wanted to be the best, they want to get these goals, and then I notice that they start slacking, they start dropping off, and I'll hold them accountable. I'll call them first and I say, what's going wrong? If there's something going wrong, like, that I'm a very soft person and very nurturing. I work with a lot of people. I think women need a bit more nurturing than what men do. Men need challenge and women tend to need a bit more nurturing. But in saying that, it depends. There's a time and a place for both because they both need both. But a lot of the time, like if I'm working with someone, they're going through adversity in their family, I can't crush them about business because that's going to break them. There's a time and a place where you need to be able to build strength with that person without breaking the spine. And so I think I have a really good way of doing that. I will support people who need to be supported, but there's also a lot of people who need to be pushed a bit. And then when I push them, sometimes you get backlash. Oh, you don't understand. You don't know what it's like. You've always been rich. Everything's been easy for you. You're fucking lucky. And I'm like, I just want to headbutt him right in the fucking mouth. And I'm like, man, if you knew what it was like how many times do you reckon you've cried over the years because of just commitments that I've made or things that I'm said we're doing, and you're like, I think that's a bad idea, and I do it anyway, and you're upset for days and weeks. Liters of tears, she says. But the thing is, like, that adversity has made our relationship stronger. Like the shit that we've had to overcome and work through as a couple, that's what made our relationship stronger. Like all of the problems, all of the pain. I remember like the first customer feedback we got that was like negative and, people saying like your events are shit, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it hit us so hard where I was fucked, you were fucked up. And it's like, we tried so hard and people criticize, but then all you do is you pull together tighter and you make it better. And then we'd run a better event. And over the years, things got better and better and better. And we got better in our relationship. Our health had to get better. Remember back in the day, we'd just sit there and like smash takeaway every night of the week because we were just working so much. But then you start feeling like shit. All of those adversities make a person better. And my job as a coach, just like a professional athlete, if I'm a coach for a professional athlete, my job isn't to sit there and fucking kiss their ass and tell them how good that they are. If you do that, you don't end up with good players, right? You end up with babies that you have to babysit. And parents know this better than anyone because a child that is over supported ends up weak and fragile. Coaches who over support their clients end up with weak and fragile clients who then they have a codependent relationship. The coach needs the client for money and the client needs the coach for emotional support and fucking babysitting. I don't need either of those two things. I've got enough money now where we could live comfortably for probably a little bit uncomfortably because we'd have to have a bit of a lifestyle decrease. And that's not why I do what I do anyway. Like, I don't have to do this shit. I can tell clients or people that I don't want to work with them and they can go somewhere else. And when they're ready, they can come back to me. But I just think that good coaches, their job should be to get the best out of their clients, not to build these symbiotic relationships where you need to babysit them and they end up codependent because it makes the client weak and reliant on you. And then you become reliant on them for money. And I think that that's a bad idea. So I've always just been pretty blunt and pretty straight down the line. But I also, after working with tens of thousands of people, you know how far you can push someone before you break them. And I think a lot of the time I do really, really well with pushing people to their limits without breaking them. But also if they do get broken, not by me, but by something else, like it could be their partner leaves or it could be a financial situation like the business collapses or whatever. The first thing that I'm going to do is be in there to nurture them, have their back and help them get back on their feet and push them hard and start to push them hard again, so they can get moving again. And I think that's been the best solution for the majority of our clients, which is why, now I think we would have easily put billions of dollars on people's business accounts. Like we would have easily made people billions of dollars. We've also, how many marriages do you reckon we've saved? A lot. Yeah, relationships. We've got people in the community who ended up meeting each other at events and stuff and ended up getting married and having kids and stuff. And they understand how human behavior works. So they're better parents, they're better in their relationship. All of those things. And that's what I love. People who in Dominate, I can't believe how many people in Dominate say, I get messages. Hey man, I gave up alcohol. I stopped smoking. I gave up drugs. I've lost weight. I feel better about life. I'm like, no shit. No one really said like the key to a great life is alcohol, drugs, partying, smoking, gaining weight. So it's the opposite of that. Like we want you to do the opposite of that so that you can live a great life. But anyway, I got to start wrapping up because I know you were supposed to go to your training session at least half an hour. This was supposed to be like a 15-minute podcast. But anyway, who would have thought that this would have blown out time-wise? What else have you got to say?
I've got nothing. I'm good. But just, enjoy. Hopefully there's some bites in there that you can reflect on your life and look at where you need to push yourself out of your comfort zone and, go from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this. And thank you to everyone else who's made this 500 episodes possible. I want to thank each and every one of you who have rated and reviewed this podcast. My team look at it all the time. Like my team, I pay for the editing and everything like that of the podcast and whatever out of my own pocket. And we don't make money back on the podcast directly. But my team really appreciates seeing those numbers go up. So they get enthusiastic and they get excited because they know that they're helping people more. I appreciate all of you for rating and reviewing this podcast. I also appreciate all of you who have jumped into our programs like Dominate, Thrive Time, our Business Growth Odyssey 12-month business mastermind. Those of you who have jumped into my mid-ticket coaching programs where we do mindset and health coaching, where we get you fit and healthy and get your mindset back on track. So I appreciate all of you who are jumping into those programs and who are bettering your lives. And then also sharing this with other people as well. Every day I wake up and someone shares this podcast on their Instagram page and tags me in it. And I love it. I love sharing. I love helping people to go to your pages as well. So hopefully you get more followers on your social media, or I don't know. I really enjoy what I do. I really enjoy doing this podcast and sharing this information. I learn a lot. Like I read a book most days or most couple of days. And so to be able to share this information with people and integrate it for them to be able to have a simple, chewable piece of information that they can take each day and just implement is pretty fucking cool. And I think that it's cool to have a community of people who believe in you just as much as you believe in them. So, I just want to say a massive thank you from myself personally, but also I know from Jess as well. It's been an awesome 500 episodes and it's been awesome having so many of you in the community connect with each other, hang out with each other, talk to each other, share this with your friends and family and things like that. My goal is just to help people live an amazing life because I think that life is way too short and I think that most people just waste it. So this podcast is to stop you from doing that, and hopefully it stops people around you from doing that as well. Anyway, Driven Mofos, thank you. I look forward to the next 500 episodes, and stay tuned because I have some massive news about my US trip. I have some big names dropping, and I'm going to be doing a podcast with them. I'm going to be on their podcast. They're going to be on mine. We're doing some YouTube stuff. I got some big names coming, so stay tuned. It's going to be pretty exciting, and I think we might do a bit of a change up on this podcast for the next 500 episodes as well. I got some stuff in the pipeline for that as well. So stay tuned. We got some changes coming. Anyway, Driven Mofos, have a great day. I appreciate you all. Keep kicking ass, and I'll see you on the next episode. Most people waste their life, and I just don't want you to be one of them.